Hello, my name is Lindsay Childs. Today, I will be sharing the results of a study conducted under Alessandro Vigiano, Emanuela Vigiano, et al. That was published in the EuroJ Pediatric, a European journal of pediatrics. This slide reveals the full name and all of the authors of the original article. To begin, I will discuss the information found in the introduction of the article. Vigiano et al. Created this study in response to the growing number of obese children in Italy, a problem not uncommon to most of the world. Targeting the modifiable behaviors associated with obesity, like a sedentary lifestyle and poor nutrition habits, could be the key to decreasing the percent of overweight and obese children and adolescents. And what better place to educate children and adolescents on these behaviors than school? Utilizing play-based learning, Vigiano et al. Created a board game named Kaledo that promoted nutrition education and a healthy lifestyle. Earlier pilot studies of the implementation of Kaledo in schools demonstrated increases in physical activity, vegetable consumption, and improvement in lifestyle behaviors. The purpose of this cohort study was to solidify the findings of the pilot study that children and adolescents who play Kaledo will experience improvement in their nutrition knowledge and lifestyle behaviors. Next, I will describe the methodology in the study. Schools that were selected for the experiment were chosen based on their location in either Naples or Salerno provinces. Of the schools that accepted, the students and their parents were asked to provide consent for the experiment, and the only exclusion criteria for students was an unwillingness to participate. So once consent from the students and parents was received, the researchers randomly placed the 20 participating schools between the control and treatment group and administered the first of 3 assessments. The second assessment would be after 6 months and the third after 18 months. Once the assessment was complete, treatment group participants began to play Kaledo in class over a 20-week period. The board game was intended to reflect a day in the life of someone living in the Mediterranean. And in playing the game, students gained nutrition knowledge by aiming to collect the most diverse food cards, by balancing their energy expenditure with their food and physical activity cards, as well as calculating their BMI. The assessments were based on the Adolescent Food Habits Checklist and a questionnaire from Trecconi et al. That addressed nutrition knowledge, healthy and unhealthy foods, physical activity and lifestyle, food habits, self-efficacy, and barriers to change. Researchers also recorded the students' BMI to track over time. Now I will discuss the results of the study as well as debrief them. This slide depicts bar graphs and pie charts comparing BMI Z-score and BMI between students in the treatment group and in the non-treatment group. I'll start with the graph on the left for the BMI Z-score. The blue bar, which indicates the control group, shows little change from month 6 to month 18, whereas the red bar, which is the treatment group, shows significant reductions with respect to the blue line in month 6 and month 18. This graph demonstrates that the BMI Z-score of students in the treatment group was closer to 0 than the control. Now looking at the pie charts to the right, we see that it illustrates the percentage of students in the treated group that were of normal weight, overweight, or obese. In month 6 and in month 18, the pie is filled with more of the darker green color, which represents the percentage of children who are of normal weight. This figure is illustrating that as the treatment group continued to play Kaledo, their overall BMIs decreased. Unfortunately, the researchers didn't create a pie chart for the BMI of students in the control group, but we'll look at their numbers in the next slide. This slide depicts the table showing the information of the participants, such as age, gender, and BMI classifications, as well as pre-test scores for both the treated and control groups on the assessment. By looking at the p-value column, we can see that there's no significant difference between either groups for the pre-test scores, but that won't be the case on the next slide. This last table slide depicts the table comparing the test scores between the treatment group and control group at the second and third assessment. As you can see in the P column, each assessment at month 6, which was the second assessment, is less than 0.001. This indicates that the difference is significant. Researchers concluded that on the second assessment, students in the treatment group had scored significantly higher on the AFHC and on all facets of their Trecconi et al. Questionnaire compared to the control group. The differences between the control and treatment group for the third assessment was not significant in any category. Lastly, I will conclude the final takeaway of this study as well as my critique of it. The findings of the Viggiano et al. Study suggest that using a school setting to provide nutrition education and healthy lifestyle behaviors for children and adolescents will improve their nutrition knowledge and increase their physical activity and self-efficacy levels, which would result in less risk of weight gain and chronic diseases in the future. Providing nutrition education in a fun, constructive way is also beneficial for the child or adolescent because it engages them and they do not even realize that they're learning. While the content that has been delivered so far in Nutrition 495 or 594 has primarily focused on parents being the educators of nutrition and lifestyle behaviors, this study illustrates the positive effects of learning in a classroom setting with peers and with oversight by a teacher who's trained in the game. There's no mention of Kaledo being a game to play at home, unfortunately, but the versatility of the board game to apply to all ages would make it a wonderful addition to family game night. I enjoyed reading this article because the method in which the nutrition education content was delivered was so different from any study that I'd read before. The researchers did an excellent job of creating a game that did not seem educational in nature, but was providing the students with an immense amount of knowledge. The frequency in which they tested the students was also appropriate given the amount of time students had to play the game, that being only 15 to 30 minutes. The way the information was presented in the article was also easy to process, containing no unnecessary jargon, and the figures colorfully depict their findings. I appreciated that the researchers took time to elaborate on the recruitment process and each aspect of the assessments the students received. The first critique I have is I wish they would have discussed what the Turconi et al. Study was and how the questionnaire was developed, since it was such an integral part of their study and their experiment. Another critique that I have has to do with some of the limitations of the study because they're quite significant. Pooling students from the same province of Campania doesn't make the results very generalizable. So other provinces in Italy, as well as in the world, may not have the same financial status or resources as Campania, so there's no telling if Kaledo would be effective there. I also feel that the researchers should have set a limit on how much the children got to play the game in their methods section. This is because students who were in smaller classrooms and had more time to play the game probably skewed the results a bit more because they had more exposure to the material, and we all know that the best way to learn is through repetition. In regards to the other limitation on this slide, I feel that this one was a bit more hard to control for because they can't really put the students in a controlled environment unless they had them in a lab somewhere. And if they wanted to try and get the results to be as organic as possible, they would just have to expect that the extraneous variables would probably impact some of the way the children and adolescents were living at home. But while these limitations do weaken the study, limitations can be found in every study out there. So ultimately, this study produced results that support the effectiveness of the board game Kaledo. Thank you.